I'm Krista Seiden, Analytics Advocate at Google, and today I'm joined by John Mesh, who's a Product Manager on Google Optimize. In this quick tip video, John is going to walk us through an overview of reporting in Optimize, specifically how to read and understand reports in Google Optimize. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to John.
Thanks, Krista. So as you all know, when you're running an A/B test, one of the most critical things is to look at how the performance of those different variants are to make sure that you're picking out the right one in the future. So let's go ahead and look at one particular test here. Now, this test is running on the Google Merchandise Store. This is where you can buy Google t-shirts and such. And I just want to give you a quick, fast overview of what's happening here. Now, this is a redirect test, and so users who come to this original page, the shop.googlemerchandisestore.com, may be redirected to this YouTube brand page. And to look a little bit more about how this is set up, let's look at the targeting. So people who come in from youtube.com are being sent over to that redirected YouTube brand page. And obviously what we're trying to do here is decrease the number of balances and try to increase purchases, trying to make sure that people are seeing that relevant content more quickly. So let's go on over to the reporting page here. Now, in a previous video, we covered a little bit about the header, but of course you can always go back and forth between the details and reporting or back to all of your experiments. But within this page, I want to focus on a few specific things. First, let's cover this right side panel here real quick. Obviously, it's got a little bit of information about the experiment, but a couple of key things to point out here. One is this ID. This is the ID that's sent in from the web page to Google Analytics. And this is also what you can use in advanced segmentation. You can also then go directly into Google Analytics from this link right here if you want to take a look at those points there. And we'll cover that a little bit more in a later quick tip video. But on to the main part of this report. So you can see we've got a few different cards here within this page. And what we've really tried to do with Optimize is to make it super simple at the top of the page to see what's happening with your test, even if you don't really know much about statistics. So you can see right here, we're telling this particular user of this test, you have results. It's now safe to stop your experiment. There's also no clear leader, so you need to do a little bit more deep diving. And then you can also see that we've got some sort of a traffic overview of how many sessions there were on any given day. Now already I'm looking at a little bit of a warning here because I'm seeing there was kind of a drop off, and so I might want to talk to my team and understand a little bit more about why there was such a drop there. So that's the quick overview, and what we really do there is try to make it, again, super simple, and we use a few different rules in that logic to help you understand what's happening there. So we do things like suggest a 2-week minimum runtime. We actually use some advanced Bayesian analysis to understand how likely it is that you might find more value from your test, and things like that. So let's move on down the page a little bit here. So this next card here is our improvement overview. You can see on the left, here's all the variants. And then we have a couple of metrics that show up here, bounces and then that purchase completed. And those were two particular objectives that I set up before the test. And you can see a couple things here. Obviously, the original is the baseline, and so we're comparing to that baseline. And you can see that this YouTube brand page for bounces is actually being reduced, which is a good thing, of course, for bounces. It's dropped by about 32%. But I do want to call your attention to this little interval underneath. And that tells you exactly sort of the opening of that likely improvement range. We call that the credible interval in a Bayesian world, and that tells you how likely it could be that the improvement falls in that range. So it's important to pay attention to that. So I've got obviously these two different goals here. This was my primary objective, and that's what this first card is based off of. But I can also go and add other objectives, at least in Optimize 360. So in this particular case, I want to go ahead and add one more objective here of people who browsed more than 5 pages. Because I'm really interested in seeing how users' behavior was affected by this test. And you can see that the median improvement here is actually, it's dropped by about 20%. Now that's really interesting in this particular case because that might mean that they're actually finding what they're looking for faster. Or it might just mean that they're a little less interested. Hopefully it's the former there. So what we're actually going to do here is go a little bit farther down the page and look at this detail card. And I'm going to look at that objective that I was just showing you, those gold 2 completions of people who browsed more than 5 pages. And this is telling me a lot more detailed information here. It tells me the conversion rate of people who actually completed that goal in each session. It tells me the difference in the improvement, and that's the same number that you might see above. It also tells me the probability of these things to either beat the original or to be best overall. So in this particular case, it looks like that original is still best overall at about 91% probability. Finally, of course, in the bottom here, you can actually look at these conversion rates over time. So in this particular case, again, you can see there's something that kind of happened here around December 6th, and so we might want to go and talk to others on the team or do a little bit more analysis in GA to understand exactly what happened. But that's just a real quick overview of the reporting within Google Optimize.
Great, thanks, John. And stay tuned to future quick tip videos where we'll go into more detail about how to read and understand those optimized reports in Google Analytics, as well as more advanced statistics overview. So thank you very much.